All right. So now from admin panel side, everything is done. From mobile app side, everything is done. From student panel side, everything is done. Whatever we have envisioned, we have worked on everything. Now next thing is till now we have tested our mobile version, mobile app on the Android emulator only. Now we'll test it on Android physical device, and then we'll test it on the iOS simulator. Okay. So now first thing, Android physical device. For physical device, the API, we have our API on localhost, which belongs to this system. But if we want to test it from the physical device, this API needs to be hosted somewhere on some public server. But we don't have that yet. So what we can do, we can have one more option. If we are using this Visual Studio here, this Visual Studio has a dev tunnels feature. So it can create a public URL for us, and that public URL will connect to this solution here with this project, this localhost. We will have that URL which can be accessed from the dev tunnel URL, which can be accessed from outside. Okay, so we'll do this now. So we have this API project set. For this, we'll simply go here and we have this dev tunnels option. Here we'll click on this create a tunnel option. Here we need to provide this tunnel name. It can be anything. So let's say Blazing quiz tunnel. Tunnel type temporary or persistent. I'm using persistent so that if we close the Visual Studio, open it again, it got removed. But I need this to be persistent. I'll manually delete this. But right now we need this because we might close Visual Studio because I'm having so much issues with Blazor IntelliSense and all those errors. Then access, we'll have it public so that it can be accessed from anywhere, from my Mac, simulator or physical device, from anywhere. Let's press OK. Now it will take some time. It will create the dev tunnel and it will show us an alert that it has been created. So you see your dev tunnel has been created successfully and is selected as the currently active dev tunnel. Here in this HTTPS, if we go now, if we see dev tunnels, it will list all the dev tunnels available. It will set this one. Now whenever you close Visual Studio, this default selection goes away. So whenever you close this, open it again, you should come here, select the API project, select this HTTPS, come here to the dev tunnels and select it manually, because when you'll close it, it will be in this state. You will not have that selected. You'll need to come here, select this. Now if I start this with debugging or without debugging, now it is going to open a dev tunnel for us. It will give us a public URL. Let's wait for it. And you see this URL, this n7b6, whatever it is, .devtunnel.ms/swagger. Here it is asking us to continue, so we'll continue. And then this swagger.index, and this is good. So this is the URL till .ms from this HTTPS. We'll copy this and we are going to use this URL. Now, because this is globally available, it is not fixed that we use it from mobile, the localhost version. We can use localhost. When we'll start this API, now it will run both actually, localhost and this dev tunnel. So we will not make any change in the web version, but we'll go to mobile, and here we'll go to MAUI program, and here where we have this thing API base URL, here we will check if this device is physical device or not. Now here we'll have that check, and it is going to be a very big check actually. The first thing, we'll check if device type, device info dot device type, if this is equals physical. If the device type is physical, you need to use this URL. If that's not the case, then you need to use this URL. Now it is going to be a big mass. Actually, this is going to be this confusing. Instead of doing this thing, this long ternary thing, if you don't want to have this as this static read only, then we can directly have it inside this configure refit. Let's do this only, it does not matter. So here we'll say string var API URL equals. We can have this default as this localhost one. This is the default. Then we'll check if our device info dot device type is physical. Then we'll use this URL. So we'll say API URL equals this. If that's not the case, then we'll have this logic. So here what we can do, we can check if this is not physical and device info dot platform equals Android, because for Android only we need to have this 10022. So here we'll say API URL equals this localhost. This. Then we can simply get rid of this thing. So here what I'll do, I'll leave it for your reference. Okay. Here we'll call it, let's say API base URL. And then where we have this thing, we'll use this like this. And now it can't be static. And I guess we are good. Now when we'll test it on iPhone, then also iPhone simulator basically, then also we'll use the dev tunnel only. I'm going to use this Windows Visual Studio API running on here, and then I'll go to my Mac and I'll start the iOS simulator from there. That is how I'm going to test it. That means for iOS device also I'm going to use this one. So if this is physical, we'll use this. If this is not, then here we can say if this platform is Android, then do this. Else, maybe else if device platform is iOS, let's use this only. Or we can simply get this and add this condition here. So if the physical device is physical or iOS, then we'll use this API base URL. If that is not the case, we'll use this thing. That means we can have this if directly here with else. Save it. And now we should be good. Let's quickly see if it is working on Windows, Android emulator here only. So I'm running API. First, let's see if we have API dev tunnel is selected. Yes. Let's start with, it is already running, but let's select from here. So debug, start without debugging. Then we'll select our mobile. We'll start this Pixel emulator. Let's see. And it is working. You see, my quizzes, we are able to fetch the data. Everything is working. Cool. Next thing, we'll test it on Android. So I'm going to connect my Android device. Then I'm going to mirror the device in here. Then we'll see how this app is looking on Android device.